So today is the day. Today is the day to change your ways. You've been saying tomorrow is the day for far too many days. How many moons must go by before you begin to see that your actions of today will result in the person you want to be? Insanity, they say, is doing the same thing but expecting something different. No, not you. You want to be magnificent. A word in Latin that means great deeds, but somehow you keep getting bogged down in the weeds. Today is the day to change your ways, to commit to the process, even on the days it doesn't pay, even on the days that it rains, even on the days full of pain, even on the days you feel sick. You don't deviate from the standard, because that's the whole meaning behind the words I commit. It's time to lock in, because you deserve your best. Others can't cheat you of success, because only you were given that test. Ace it for all the broken hearts and aces. Ace it for all the deep scars and smiling faces. Ace it because you, my friend, are destined for greatness. You've got everything you need to accomplish the goal. The only thing holding you back is the person you're afraid to get to know. So look yourself in the mirror and be real with your reflection. You hate rejection, denial, criticism, and objection. You love the praise and the pleasure you get from external validation. You love standing ovations from your words of inspiration. You fear uncertainty, but know that in every situation, when you gave it your all, you exceeded your wildest expectations. So step aside, old self. Stop getting in the way. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so today is the day.
Hey, C, God told me to start this podcast, and then he told me to call you. The time is now. You ready?
I got you, T. Let's do
it. Welcome, family, to another episode of the Mental Locker Room podcast. I, of course, am your boy, Dr. C, and I am here with my illustrious co-host, Tesh Johnson. How you doing this Sunday, Tesh?
I am blessed and highly favored. C, glad to be here for another episode, allowing God to use us and use our voices and our gifts to inspire others.
Yeah,
how you doing, C?
Hey, I can't complain. As I was telling y'all, boy, in the pre-discussion, I'm a happy man. Baltimore got beat to death today, but Miami beat Florida State, and if we don't win another game this year, I'm good with it, because we did what we were supposed to do. We handled business, and they was talking real greasy, and our players had to remind them, didn't y'all win like 2 games last year? Why y'all talking to us? Why y'all talking to us? And then we showed them, like, big brother. And we get to sit here with a guest. You know, I get really excited when we talk to the football folks, because that was my game. So I feel a lot more in my element.
I know
when
how
we
to
talk
keep
to
you
the
happy.
Football folks. Hey, I appreciate it. That's why we work so well together. So, if this is your first time here, let me give you the skinny about what you're listening to. This is the Mental Locker Room podcast, and this is a space for former athletes turned entrepreneurs and industry leaders to inspire athletes to find their identity, their purpose, their legacy, and their mindset beyond the game. And that guest that I was telling y'all about today, y'all, we have Reggie D, who is a former Vandy football player turned best-selling author.
Down.
Yes. And he's now a best-selling author, an entrepreneur, and an advocate who's redefining what strength really means. He grew up surrounded by challenges that many of us can imagine, right? Poverty, trauma, the weight of generational cycles he refused to repeat. He walked onto that Vanderbilt football team, earned both his bachelor's and his master's degree, and he built a life anchored in purpose, not perfection. And today he's the founder and CEO of RoseCrete Wealth Management, where he merges financial strategy with emotional healing, making sure that he's helping people and not just building a portfolio, but he wants people to have a peace of mind and generational freedom. Reggie's best-selling book, PTSD, hold on now. I know you think you know what that means, but the book is Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction. And his TedX talk, The Vulnerability Muscle, have inspired audiences across the world to confront their pain, rewrite their stories, and to discover purpose on the other side of adversity. Beyond the titles and achievements, Reggie is a man who leads with his heart. He uses his story to remind us that real wealth isn't measured in dollars, but is measured in healing, growth, and who we lift as we rise. So today, we're going to step into the locker room with Reggie D Ford so that we can talk about healing, wealth, and the courage to be vulnerable. How you doing today, Reggie?
After that, I'm doing great. Man, walk around with me and just repeat that every day. I need that. I need that boost right there. But I am blessed. I'm blessed to be here with y'all, and I'm thankful for this opportunity.
Reggie, we are so glad to have you here. Reggie and I met a few months ago in March, I believe, and he is an award-winning speaker. We're both in the Next Level Speakers Academy together, and that day, Reggie got on stage and killed it and won the Drop Mic Award. Such a powerful story. So many memorable moments within that story that really resonate with a lot of people in a lot of rooms. And it takes just that vulnerability. And he's built a framework, a career, a lifestyle out of that. And that encourages, I believe, a lot of other people to be like, hey, maybe this is something I can do too. So Reggie, I thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing your story with the world, because so many people are selfish.
Yes, awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's you mentioned the framework. That's the first pillar of it is model the behavior, because it allows people to. It gives people the permission to be vulnerable themselves and to find that strength and vulnerability. So that's the mission.
Amazing. And I pray that this episode brings healing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So let's get to it, man. So you're referred to as a wellness and resilience architect. And like we just talked about, you created the vulnerability muscle framework. In plain language for our listeners out there, what is that? And what's one 5-minute daily technique that our listeners and viewers can try today to start lifting that muscle?
Absolutely. So the vulnerability muscle framework stemmed from the ways in which we look at vulnerability collectively. We often look at vulnerability as a weakness. Like, if I share this about myself, or if I expose this, then people are going to use that against me. It's going to be viewed as a weakness. I'm going to be viewed as less than or not as strong as I otherwise would be. And I challenge that belief. I challenge that because so much of my growth and so much of the growth that I see in not only people, but in nature, in the universe, starts with vulnerability. You think about, so Dr. Gabor-Mate talks about this, where for a seed to blossom into a plant, it has to be vulnerable. That seed has to break down underground and then it blossoms. If you look at when people talk about their stories of pain to purpose, of trauma to triumph, they're talking about a period where they were broken down, where they were at the rock bottom states, and then something came from that moment. And in my own personal story, I was at my rock bottom, and my rock bottom looked different than a lot of people's. It's a relative rock bottom, but at that time, I was in the worst mental health state of my life, dealing with grief, depression, anxiety, PTSD triggers, and that moment became the catalyst to so much growth. And me talking about it, sharing it through my book, and then speaking was catalyst to even more growth and healing. And so the vulnerability muscle is all around redefining vulnerability as a strength to connect, to heal, to grow, to innovate. And I would say one strategy that people can utilize is that first pillar. It's model the behavior. And when I say model the behavior, it's what is vulnerable to you. Again, it's very relative, because I'm sure I'll share some stuff on this episode. Y'all might share some stuff on this episode that may feel too vulnerable for someone in their journey. But what is that small interaction that you can have with somebody where you say, I need help? Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
You know, for people who are so self-reliant, who have done everything and been programmed to think that they are the only person they can depend on, it may be, I need help, or I don't have all the answers. Let me figure that out, or let's figure that out together. So those are small steps. And I think one one way is to just recognize that we're imperfect and that we need community to help us get to the places that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, that's big. Community is huge. And so many people, they like so often we can feel like we're alone, within the journey, but then you can come across someone or meet someone that shares not the same story, but a similar story where you guys can connect with one another and kind of go through that journey together, and be vulnerable, because it takes a lot. Because if we keep things bottled up inside of us, we're at some point you're going to implode.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, how can I let this thing out, whether it's seeking out therapy, or just someone that you can trust with this story and what you're dealing with. But a lot of times that's easier said than done. We would rather put the mask on, right? And say, hey, nothing's happening. Nothing's going on. Let me just keep, pretending as if everything were okay until it's not.
And it's
I
crazy.
want to go ahead, see.
Because like, one, thank you for bringing in the doctor that you did. Like, I love research, big nerd, right? But as you were talking and Tisha's picking up where you left off, it reminds me of the book The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
Right? That you can keep bottling it up, you can keep masking it, but it's gonna cost you. It's going to cost you, because the body is going to let you know at some point that it can't hold it anymore.
We only have capacity for so much. So much suffering, so much enduring, so much trauma. We only have so much capacity for that. And you see that when that capacity is exhausted, people turn to very dire options. And sometimes it's no life after that, unfortunately. And other times it's, okay, I have to in the words of the young people right now, crash out. They crash out, and that is a outpouring of all the things that they've bottled up. And it doesn't have to get to that place. And that's the work that I'm doing, that we're doing, is to recognize the signs, to prevent those crash outs, those burnouts, those moments where people feel like they have no other option than to do this very big, drastic thing that could alter the course of their life or in their life. And we can get ahead of that. And so that's where when you talk about the body keeps the score, it's recognizing through mindfulness, through embodiment, what signs are my body telling me that things are going in a negative direction. It may be the way that my heart is beating. It may be the stomach aches, the headaches, the back pain. Like, all those things are signs that our body is telling us that we need to attend to it.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, when you were, at what you would call rock bottom, you were also on the Forbes 30 for 30 under 30 list at that same time.
That's the wild part about it. When I say my rock bottom didn't look like everybody else's, like, I wasn't in financial constraints. I wasn't, I was married I am married, and great relationship with my wife. I had a house. I had all the things that people would look at from the outside in saying that's success. But for me, there was trauma and there was triggers that were being reignited that I hadn't dealt with. They had gone unaddressed for, at that point, 27 years. And so that piece was the hard part amongst we're right beside all of this success. I was nominated for Forbes 30 under 30, top 100 in finance, being celebrated for the work that I was doing in finance, and yet I was miserable. And it just shows you, we always ask when we see a celebrity or somebody who we think is happy, like, how did they do it? Why would they do it? What was going on? You never know. And a lot of times it's a lot of that masking that, make us think that Robin Williams couldn't have been depressed. He's making everybody laugh. But shoot, sometimes the people who are making us laugh are distracting from their own pain.
Exactly. So powerful. So powerful. Like mentioned earlier, you are a Vanderbilt football alum. What lesson from those years still show up in your framework today, and how can today's student athletes that are in transition apply it into real life?
I would say one thing that I have to continuously come back to from the football days is the structure of the day. The structure of, you think I got a folder I was just looking at from camp. You got, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 7:30. You got everything planned out and structured, and it creates this vessel to where you show up day in and day out, and the consistency of it produces the outcomes that you're looking for. And when you deviate from that, then you start to see deviations in those outcomes and those results. And so, the greatest things, the greatest success comes from doing the mundane things consistently. And so
Yes.
it may be, I don't feel like sending these messages out, calling these 10 people a day,
Yeah.
drafting these blog posts and all of these things. But, the moment you slip up on those things, and I'm just using that as some of the things that I do, but whatever it
Yeah.
is that you do in your work, in your life, that's when you start to see the results change.
Yes.
And I was talking to a OG. He's in the UK, but he's a coach, and he's been coaching for like 50 years. But before coaching, life coaching and
Yeah.
executive coaching became really big. And I asked him, what's a lesson that he could teach me? And he said, keep marketing even when your business is successful. Because I think when we get in that place where it's like we rocking and rolling, like we good. And he's like, the moment he pulled up on those emails and those newsletters that he was sending out and all of that, that's when, 3 months down the line, the effects show up. And
Yeah.
so the consistency in the schedules, I think, was one big, big piece. And then another piece that I cannot overlook is the little things, doing
Yeah.
the little things. I remember, so I play for James Franklin, who's at Penn State right now, and man, I'm hurting for my dog right now. But he just lost a big one. But
Man.
uh, like the little things of, our helmets are on the left side with the face mask pointed out, our cleats are on the right side, laces tucked in the shoes, toes out. And like, we get in trouble if that wasn't the case, right? If
Yeah.
if the toe is pointed one way or the laces are out, like those little
Man.
things impact the big things, and those big things again impact the results. And so those two things I would say are crucial, and just being consistent with those.
Yeah. Discipline, consistency, and mastering the little things.
Yes.
So many people, they forget like the boring things are the
Mhm.
things that add up and create those results like you're talking
Yes.
about. So get really good at boring.
Yes.
I'm boring. I love it.
Fact.
I love it.
Mhm.
Details matter. Details matter.
I tell
That's
people too, like, cause at this point in my life, I recognize myself as highly accomplished for my age.
yeah.
And to me, I don't feel like I've done anything extraordinary. It's just
Mhm.
been doing the ordinary good thing, the right thing, the thing I set my mind to over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's what I've done. And so that's what it takes.
Man, I love it.
I love how you so eloquently put it. It's the little things that teach you the lessons that allows you to tackle the big things, right? It's like the Navy SEALs to say, first thing they do in the morning, what? Make my bed.
That's
Yep.
it.
Like
Same.
I don't do this, y'all. Let me not, because I don't want y'all holding me accountable for things that I don't do. I'm telling you what other people who are successful have said, right? To drive the point home that the little things get you where you need to make your bed. Look at that. She's got a book called Make Your Bed. Of course she does. Of course she does. But you can even like find joy in the little things, in the mundane things, right? Like when I ever hear that story from a Navy SEAL, they never tell it like, oh, I gotta make my bed in the morning. Like, no, I enjoy making my bed in the morning.
Yeah.
I enjoy
Yeah.
doing the little things. And I think that's that mindset shift that some people need, right? That they come into it already saying these things are former English teachers. Words matter. This is boring. This is mundane. Well, you probably ain't gonna do it too long, right?
Yep.
This is necessary. This is making me better, right? As we change the vocabulary, we change our mindset. These things just become easier, especially if you do them 21 days, because then you got a habit.
I think about it like this because I started doing it, and I started doing it for my sleep hygiene more than anything, because I had terrible insomnia. Again, going back to that rock bottom period, I had about 30 days where I was not sleeping. I would close my eyes and pop back up, and my heart be racing. And that was the rest of the night. And so I had to create a routine and consistency around what my sleep was going to look like. And you think about if you go to a hotel room and the bed is messy, even if it's you that made it messy, you're like, it don't look the same as if when they come in and they tuck it in, and just like it's more inviting, it's more welcoming, and you feel better about getting into that bed. And so that's the same mindset I put toward my own bed. Is I get up in the morning. I'm not doing the exact same as if when I first put the new sheets on there and tucking everything in and tightening this and this, but it's nice, it's flat, it's clean, it's welcoming, the lines are straight. And that makes me feel good. It makes me sleep better. And so
Yeah.
that helps somebody. Maybe do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. So I want to pivot. I want to pivot to something that is near and dear to my heart. And we only 3 questions in, but this one, when we was cooking this one, this meant a lot to me because you talking about mental health of Black men. I am a Black man. My dissertation work was on Black male faculty, specifically their resilience characteristics, brother. We family.
Mhm.
And one thing that we're told a lot, and as Black men, is tough it out, suck it up. Boys don't cry, which makes my skin crawl when I hear that. But this language is language that we get early from both daddies, mamas, aunties, anybody that feel like they can tell us something will tell us tough it out. What language has helped you open the door to welcome therapy, coaching, and community and care without triggering a sense of needing to defend the decisions that you made?
I'm going to distill it down to one word: humanity.
Ooh.
I think telling a person not to emote, not to cry, not to show their emotions is stripping them of their humanity. And I felt that for so long in my life. My pops went to prison when I was 8 years old. I cried that night, and I say I didn't cry until maybe 8 years later. And you think about a kid who's growing up missing his dad, who doesn't have a great relationship with his mom, who is experiencing friends die, and like all of that, and you just bottle that up. It's like that's not a human reaction to the grief, to the pain, to the suffering that people go through. And even like I think like even happiness sometimes was stripped away from us. Like you too damn happy. Like, can I not be joyful as a kid, as a person in general? And it strips our humanity. And I got to a point where I was sick of that narrative. That narrative was not serving me any longer. It serves some people. I get that. Like if you in the streets, if you in certain environments where showing your vulnerabilities, like I tell people this, like when you express that vulnerability muscle, when you flex that vulnerability muscle, you have to be in an environment that is welcoming to that. If that environment is gonna be that weapon that stabs you in the back, that is contrary to what we're talking about, then you have to protect yourself in that and recognize the difference. But when you start to surround yourself with good people and good environments, then you are able to express that, and your humanity is then restored. And so I got around people who recognize my humanity and allow me to find it for myself. And when I found it, it was like recognize humanity, then start loving the hell out of it, because I hadn't been loving it. There was so much shame wrapped up into the things that I had experienced, the things that I had done, the things that other people in my family had been involved in that I had carried shame about. And so I walked around with self-loathing. I didn't like myself. And I didn't know that, but it showed up in my actions. It showed up in how I didn't respect my own time. I didn't respect my own agency to do things. And, I couldn't say no to anybody, because who am I? I'm at the bottom of the totem pole in my head because I have so much shame about myself. And so it's yes, 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 yes to everybody else's needs but mine. And that had to change. And so it was all about reclaiming my humanity.
Guys, that was a lot. That was a lot, brother. I want to sit there.
Yeah.
Because vulnerability is your game, man. Like, walk us through that. Like, at what point did that switch flip for you, and you was like, all right, I don't love myself, I don't respect myself, I need to go figure out how to get this back because I deserve it, because I'm human. What was that?
Yeah.
What was that at the time in your life, and what did you do? What was the steps?
Yeah. So it was I was in therapy when it was revealed to me. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these decisions that I'm making that are harming me. It's like, why are you continuing to make these decisions? They feel comfortable. They feel comfortable to be trapped in chaos, to allow the person who's harming me to continue to harm me, right? And you know, these are people that are close to me that the world will tell you they are supposed to be in your life. Like, that's just how it is. This is that family member, that person, and it's
Yeah.
and so I got in this pattern. I was like, I'm allowing the pain to continue. I'm allowing the suffering to continue when I could make an active choice. But why am I not making that active choice? What stories am I telling about myself that say I cannot make a choice in any other direction? And the choices were that I am not enough, bro. I'm not worthy enough of love. Like, I have to perform. I have to get straight A's. I have to be the star football player. I have to run a successful business for people to love me, to be validated, because my mom act like she don't love me and my dad act like he don't love me. And maybe it's not them acting like that, but how it's perceived by the kid who feels abandoned. And that kid that feels abandoned continues to internalize that message day in and day out until it becomes week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out. And then you end up 27 years old with the same narrative as the kid who's sitting there watching the news saying, my daddy can't stay out of jail because he doesn't love me. If he loved me, he would do something different. And so I then internalized, I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy of that love. And then all the actions subsequent to that start to reflect that. And it looks, again, it was applauded and celebrated and rewarded by society, because the person who sacrifices themselves, the person who goes out and achieves for achievement's sake, they get uplifted and heralded. And yet it's not about the achievement. It's not about doing good for the world. It's about what's motivating that. And what was motivating me was this sense of inadequacy versus a sense of love. I'm still going to go out and achieve, but I'm coming from a different angle now. And so it's not about changing the inspiration, the innovation. It's about changing the motivation.
And I love that the work you did. Before you made the vulnerability muscle key framework, before you went to telling folks how to grow their money, and you did that internal work. You worked on you, and out of that came a labor of love. We all know, been in corporate spaces, one thing leaders love more than data is frameworks. They love frameworks that they can just take bits and pieces of and put it on their folks. But yours is a little bit different because, again, you did some real deep work and came up with the vulnerability muscle framework. So could you mentioned one pillar.
Yeah.
What are the other pillars? What are some of the red flags that you could, when you talk to people and you're coaching them around this, that you tell them, hey, look out for this? And what are some of the green flag behaviors that lets the individual know that, all right, I'm doing some real changing here?
Yeah. So I'm gonna talk to that last piece about the red flag, green flag on the last pillar, because that's a piece of the framework, and I think you have to have those moments where you're reflecting in that way. But the framework spells out muscle, MUSCLE, right? And so the M is model the behavior. The U is understand yourself and others, and I'm gonna go deeper into it. The S is signal psychological safety, and I'll really talk about that later. The C is choose curiosity over criticism. L is listen to understand, not to respond. And then the E, go to your point, is evaluate and evolve. So that's when you're looking at how you're measuring your success, if you want to call it that, but how you're measuring your growth along your vulnerability journey. And so model the behavior is doing just that. Like, if I'm a leader, if I'm leading a team, if I'm leading a classroom, if I'm leading a family, right? I want to get a result out of somebody. I have to show up and do the work first so that they understand, again, they have permission to do that, but they know a good model of how to do it. We talk about role models. Well, there's a vulnerability role model who's the leader of the organization, and I'm looking at them and they tell me they made a mistake and they don't have it all right, but yet they're still successful. Oh, and yet that mistake that they made and them going and pursuing that goal was what got them to be successful. It's like, okay,
Yes.
Now I can innovate and make mistakes and challenge myself and get challenged and that not be the end of me. The you understand yourself and others. I think this goes a bunch of different routes. I'm studying positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, and so there's a strength-based part to this that I like to incorporate. But then there's also, for a lot of people who have that unaddressed trauma that I have, I would recommend that is maybe psychotherapy or another modality to address some of the things that they need to understand about themselves and about the different pieces and parts of themselves. And I like to incorporate an assessment in this pillar, the EQI, which is looking at their emotional intelligence, all the subscales of emotional intelligence and how, where you stack up on that. Not a good or bad judgment, but a matter of information. This is how I show up in certain in situations, especially when they're emotionally driven. And when I understand this about myself, then I can look and give grace to the other people because they're falling on this scale as well. So that's all of those build up to the whole framework is around building psychological safety. And so signaling psychological safety, being that safe person that people can turn to, being that safe environment, building and creating that safe culture for people to show up vulnerably, where they don't feel like their ideas are going to be squashed, where their mistakes are going to be reprimanded, where they feel that they can actually grow, where they're that seed in the ground that can be vulnerable, open up, and then grow and blossom. The C, choose curiosity. We jump to conclusions. A lot of times it has served us over the course of evolution, right? When that bush was rumbling over there, it could have been a tiger, it could have been a little a little bunny, right? But if it was a tiger, I needed to get my ass out of there. And so we jump to conclusions as a means of protecting ourselves. But when it's interpersonal relationships, when it is things that will harm us today, it no longer serves us. And so choosing curiosity, and one piece in this, I always ask people to just think about multiple truths, multiple realities existing at the same time, and asking yourself what else could be true in this moment, right? If I draw a 6 right in front of me, to you guys, it's going to look like a 9. And is it true that it looks like a 9 to you and it looks like a 6 to me? Absolutely. So both of those realities are true. And so if I ask what else could be true, it's just me getting on the same side as you and saying, okay, I recognize that. Now, where can we find compromise? Right. Then moving to L. L is listen to understand, not to respond, not to defend. And I had to do this for myself because whenever this is something that I had been conditioned to do, if something was brought up about me in a negative way, I would jump to defend. Even if it was something small, it was like jump to defend. Well, this is why I did it that way, or this is, and it's like we get into that pattern sometimes, but to build the psychological safety, to help people grow, just listen to understand their perspective. Going back to that curiosity, like let them have the space in that moment. And I do this exercise with people in groups where I'll have, 2 people paired up. One person's not looking, the other person sees a word on the screen or on a board, and it's an emotion or an adjective for them to embody. And you see that when the emotions are distracted, bored, preoccupied, they don't even hear what's going on. Even though they know they're in this play state, they don't hear what's going on. And the person who's speaking has a very difficult time communicating to them. But then when the word switches to engaged, when the word switches to interested, then both parties get a much better experience out of that, and the communication goes so much better. The E is evaluate and evolve. And again, going back to the EQI and that assessment, doing things like 360s to see how are other people viewing you in terms of that emotional intelligence. Because we have a perception of ourselves. We have our private selves, we have our public selves that we show to the world, and then we have this perceived self. And that perceived self is extremely important because that's the rest of the world, and that's the interpersonal relationships and how they are viewing us. Looking at those relationships and how that impacts our work, our lives, our families, our teams, is truly important. And so I do development plans with people and groups to figure out how to improve those relationships and that communication and that level of safety. And then I always incorporate with all of them a level of self-care, because I think when you're being vulnerable, when you're expressing yourself, there are vulnerability hangovers at times. There is
Yeah.
emotion. There are a lot of emotions, and we need to take
Yeah.
care of ourselves through it all. So I say self-care is sacred, not selfish, and so we prioritize that.
I just heard what I heard was that you need to have a recovery session after you're being so vulnerable and sharing those emotions.
So vulnerability muscle has parallels with physical muscle, like physical weight training,
Yeah.
right? So when you
Yeah.
think about it, you go and you have a hard session, you maxing out, or you just went crazy in the gym. It's gonna be real hard to get back up to that the next day. You may have to take a
Yeah.
break, and you should take a break. And
hmm
so it's about that. It's about, you don't go into the gym and lift the heaviest. If you go in there and you never power cleaned in your life, and you pick up
Yeah.
225 and you try to clean it, you might hurt yourself.
You won't
And
pick up
so,
again.
Exactly.
you got to build up to that. So that's the small incremental vulnerability pieces. And then once you do max out and you hit it real hard on Thursday, you're not gonna go in there and do the same thing on Friday. And so it's about listening to your body, taking care of yourself.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And your framework itself, like, it allows you to do that internal work, but it works for any team as well.
Absolutely.
Whether that's corporate, an athletic team, in the schools, any team that's
Yeah.
out there can implement these strategies, and see, like this isn't a theory. You're going to be able to see whether or not there's change. You're going to know whether or not you're being vulnerable, if you're listening to people more to understand rather than to respond or defend. You're like,
And
these
I'll
are active
piggyback.
things.
I'll piggyback off that and say, Google did a study to see what made the best teams, what made the most successful teams, the ones that were most engaged, the ones that did the best work, the ones that made the most money, the ones that worked well together. And the number one predictor of success in teams that they found was psychological safety, defined as the ability to be vulnerable and express yourself as you are without the fear of repercussion. And so when we build those teams, we are able to have the success that we want.
Do people feel heard? Do your people feel heard? Do they feel like they can be open? Do they feel like there's space for them to make mistakes and grow?
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Now you have a podcast, the Vulnerability Muscle Podcast.
Yes.
Which we will drop a link for. You collect stories from your guests and everyone that you bring on about their growth, and how they've been open, and you create a space for that, right? Is there a pattern that you hear with your guests through their stories, over and over again? And what's one question can leaders ask that you ask in your interviews? They can ask this to their own teams to unlock some candor and some openness.
Oh, such great questions. I would say a pattern that I've recognized is when people, not everybody, but a lot of people, when they start to talk about their childhood, because I ask a question, what is one of your favorite childhood memories? And there are a lot of people who will go, oof, it was dark. It was dark. And that may be some selection bias with the folks that end up on the podcast, but I think recognizing that is huge, because I'm asking about something positive, because I'm setting the tone from a different angle than people probably recognize when they're stepping onto the show. So that's a commonality. But then from the positive side, I would say that the relationships that people cultivate throughout their lives are what help them create and build the resilience that get them through the difficult times. And so relationships are so vital, even for the introvert, even for the hermit, the person who feels like they don't like people, because I find myself in that category a lot of times. And it's not opening myself up to a huge net of people and big social groups. It's It's those few people that you can lean on, the quality over quantity in relationship that make all the difference. And so I would say that's a common thread throughout. And for leaders, I would say, we blaze through a question that really could set the tone for how the rest of our interactions go with people. How are you doing? People answer that question. Yeah,
Right.
good. I'm good. Yeah, everything good.
Yep.
And it's subtle, but I think it helps to create such a great impact. How's your heart today? It makes people pause because they have to answer that question. And if I come in asking me about my heart is again reclaiming my humanity, and it makes me pause. And if it is something difficult going on, I am able to at least bring it up. It's not great. Got in a car accident when I was coming into work, or last night got some really bad news, but I'm here, I'm ready. So you do it with that information, what you do as a leader, but it gives you information as opposed to good.
So important.
Yeah.
So important. Because even that question, how's your heart today? As the leader, you asking that is almost no way that you could be faking that. Like how you doing today? And you keep it moving, right? It could be genuine, could be sincere, but and a lot of times it's like you don't even care what the person says. You're speaking, you're addressing someone, like that's routine. But to say, how's your heart today? That takes a certain heart posture to even ask a question like that, where you have to slow yourself down as a leader and say, ooh, I do actually care about this person. Let me listen. And then when they do give you something that may not be something that you were expecting to hear, now you got to exercise that muscle as a leader of, all right, how do I respond to this thing? How am I going to react to this situation? Where does my empathy come in now? Where they still got responsibilities and things that I need to hold them accountable for, but there's that human aspect as well that I need to tend to.
Absolutely. And it makes such a difference. When you look at burnout numbers, when you look at quiet quitting, when you look at people who don't feel engaged in their work, it's about perception of their work. It's about the perception of their purpose. It's about the perception that their experience is giving them. It's not necessarily about the situation. The situation could be the same across the board, but if they feel what you were saying earlier, if they feel heard, if they feel seen and valued, then that changes the perception and how they show up. And then their subjective well-being is increased because they're recognized for what they're going through, what they're experiencing. It may be, all right, take the afternoon off, or, it may be, all right, just, come to my office later on. And that alone may signal, okay, they care about me here. They care about me here, because that afternoon off or me coming to the office is not going to greatly impact the organization. But them quitting or them becoming a cancer to the team, that will.
Yes.
And so to recognize you do these small things to prevent the malady later on, that's what it's all about.
But you also need a leader. And, I'm going to give you flowers, brother, because it ain't a lot of people out there that what you are describing is seeing people, actually seeing people. A lot of times our leaders are seeing bottom lines. They're seeing the responsibilities I need to hold you accountable for, and completely forgetting that if I leave right now, you got to do it. Or you got to find somebody else to do it. So it behooves you to make sure that I'm taken care of. I think the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? People fed, people feel safe, people are housed, clothed, they'll do anything you want them to do. But at any point, any of those needs are not met, their output is not gonna get it, because they're worrying about other stuff. And it's hard sometimes to balance that. We got stuff that we got to get done, but you also need to take care of yourself, right? It takes a leader that's really attuned with themselves to understand that the well-being of my people is is what's going to get us the ship to move.
Absolutely.
And that was that's a football lesson too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about it, the profit, the wins, all of the outcomes are people determining. So you need people to do the work. When you look at so I got my finance degree and background and all of that, right? I'm looking at spreadsheets. I'm looking at companies' financials. What is the largest expense item? It is people. It is the people expense. And so you think if you're not investing in that people, if you're not putting people over profit, then you're gonna deteriorate your overall organization.
Hey, put that on a shirt. People over profit.
I did not coin that. But it's the way that I live. It's the way that I live my life.
Yeah. Part of your journey, right? You also wrote a memoir, right? You redefined PTSD from post-traumatic stress disorder to perseverance through severe dysfunction, right? And what is life but a series of dysfunction? Why did you reframe it that way? And what is one of the micro practices that you still use when you fall back, right? Because that's the other part of the journey. Is some people might think, oh, Reggie got it all together, man. Reggie don't slip no more. Reggie ain't struggling no more. Let him in your life, brother. When the moments do come up, right? What are you doing?
So I looked at PTSD, I live with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and also complex PTSD, which isn't recognized by the diagnostic manual, but it is very real. And what I mean by that, so PTSD is what you think of when you think of like combat veterans waking up out of their sleep. They have those flashbacks. They have the reoccurring memories, the negative reoccurring memories. They have those signs and symptoms that impact their lives and then manifest into depression, maybe anxiety, maybe some other things. Complex PTSD is prolonged trauma over a period of time. So whereas it could have been in one instance a very acute bombing or an acute situation, on the other side, this is happening to me week in, week out, day in, day out. And that is the lived experience for a lot of people who I don't think really recognize that they may be living with the effects of complex PTSD. And so, but with that, I'm going through my own healing journey. I'm going through therapy, and I'm looking at life, and I'm saying I cannot be defined by this diagnosis. This will not define me. Do my triggers still show up? Is my PTSD actually real? Absolutely. I will not sugarcoat that ever. My wife can tell you because she knows better than anybody in this world. Just 2 days ago, like it's scary to me, really, honestly. Like their thing, and I'll never disclose this publicly, but like in the middle of the night, I'll hear these noises, and I'm like, dead set that noise is real, right? It sounds like somebody is rumbling through some stuff, or it may be a siren, or it may be it's something. And I go and I look at it, and I'm like, there is nothing there. But I am literally hearing this. And I know I have a dog, and I think dogs are great for people who have trauma and PTSD because they're a reality check at times. I look at my dog. My dog's not reacting to the sound that I'm hearing. So it's not real. But I'm experiencing it. And it's like, oh my goodness. And so that happens, the waking up out of my sleep and all of that stuff happens. And so what I will say is redefining it was to know that it didn't control my life, that I go through pain, but it's not going to be what I am known for. I am known for getting up. I am known for being resilient. I am known for growth. I am known for positivity. I'm known for purpose, because just as PTSD is a real diagnosis, PTSD, post-traumatic growth, is real too. You grow through that pain. And there's studies that show just as many people grow from their pain as the people who are severely impacted through their trauma. And so I feel that I am blessed, and I'm one of those people who have grown through tremendous amounts of pain. I've seen the optimistic side of hardship, and I have continued to elevate and evolve and help people build the skills to do the same.
You said something that's so important, where you're putting an emphasis on reframing as opposed to ignoring,
Mhm.
because it's not a joke, right? PTSD is a real thing that you still have to address, you still have to live with and deal with, but you don't let it define you either, where you don't allow it to dictate your entire life. No, I'm going to reframe it. Okay, this is something that is, I didn't choose it, but this is how I can go about my days to say, okay, this is what's happening. I recognize these different patterns. Okay, I'm going to do something about it, as opposed to some people, they reframe, but then they just kind of like, they put that mask on and they try to ignore it like it's not a real thing. And that's what they go and they try to teach other people to do. Like, no, like, this is not a joke.
Right.
This is real, really real, actually. I still face these things on a daily basis or from time to time or whatever it is. This is a part of me, but it's not all of me. And so it's about that growth. And so I think a lot of people need to hear that, right? Whether it's PTSD or ADHD or what are all of these, these things that could, shape a person's identity and in their entire life, where that's not what it's meant to do, but it can be a superpower. For you, you've created an entire framework to help the next person with their breakthrough and their reframe of this. And so it's one thing to reframe it, but do not ignore these things that are very, very serious.
Absolutely. I definitely do not encourage ignoring it, because that's what I would ignore it to a point where it became suppression that happened automatically. Pain hit, okay, put that down into a box, push it down, push it down, push it down. And like we were talking about earlier, that capacity got overfilled and it exploded. And so, yeah, I in my book I talk about the process of perseverance, from pain to passion, passion to purpose, purpose to power, power to peace. And that we have to recognize that pain. That is essential to growing. Because when we don't recognize it, when we let it fester inside of us, then it becomes toxic, and it leads to negative health outcomes, both physically, mentally, you name it. And if we don't address it, then we cannot heal it. We have to feel it in order to heal it. So yes, when you're angry, be angry. When you're upset, be upset. But that is not your life. That is not your state of being. That is an emotion, and emotions do not last forever. Emotions are signals. They tell us things. I'm mad because something happened. So let me address that, what happened, express my anger in a healthy way, and then move past that in a restorative way. Same thing with any other emotion. Like they're signal things that we need to attend to. And so when you create that space for you to address those emotions, especially the heavy ones. I don't like to use positive and negative emotions, because I think the so-called negative emotions actually are just information for us to attend to. But when we experience those heavy emotions, that can be insight into things that we need to do different.
The thing I like about your story and your framework and the way that you go about the coaching and helping people walk through their past pain and trauma is you aren't promising anybody that life ain't gonna hurt. You ain't saying that, hey, you do these things and ain't nothing bad ever gonna happen to you again. Because there are people that are doing that. There are people making a lot of money telling that lie that there is, like, one thing in the Bible was very, very, very clear on is there gonna be troubles, but it was also very clear on trouble don't last always.
That's it.
Right. And that's what this framework is speaking to is this storm is storming right now. But stand in tune with yourself, being kind to yourself, being kind to others, making sure that people feel seen, heard, and valued. And then by the time you look up again, the storm's gonna be done past. And we're all, right, not just me, but we're all going to be better for that. And it's just personal. I just feel like that's that type of being in tune with ourselves and our neighbor is what's missing. It's missing. Like I was listening to De La Soul, The Stakes is High, and Buddy got a bar where he's like, it's just hoods because ain't no neighbors. That's why we all live in the hood, because ain't no neighbors. We're not being neighborly. And as we take care of ourselves, I think that allows us to be better neighbors.
Yeah.
Because there's so many folks hurting. And they got to start with them before it branches out to other people, before they can get it. You got to make sure that you heal. Grandma used to say, sweep around your own doorstep before you
Grandma
sweep somebody
knows.
else's.
Grandma knows. Grandma knows. You brought up something that I wanted to touch on about, like, it's not permanent. It doesn't last forever. And it's a concept called explanatory styles within, optimism and positive psychology. And so, like, you have an optimist explanatory style and a pessimist explanatory style. And they look at three different things: the permanence of something, the pervasiveness, and the personal part of it. And so an optimist sees things as impermanent, sees the negative as impermanent, meaning something bad happened, that's not going to last forever. They see it as not pervasive, meaning if I miss a shot in basketball, that I'm not a terrible basketball player. I'm not a terrible person. Pervasive is like, I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at everything. And then personal, it's not about me. Like, okay, the defense was good. Like, okay, that's why it's not, I am bad. Whereas on the optimistic side, they on the pessimistic side, they will see the negative thing happen and apply it to permanent. It is always going to be like this. When it comes to pervasiveness, again, the aspects of all their life is impacted by it. And then it's very much permanent. I am the reason. I am the result. Where it's the total opposite for the pessimistic on the good things that happen. It's not about them. It's something else that made the good thing happen. And that good thing won't last forever. And that good thing's only applied to this specific moment. And it's like, how do we flip our brains to start to develop that optimistic explanatory style where we recognize that, nothing in life is permanent. Let's go there. But especially the negative things, they're not permanent. The positive things aren't permanent either, but can we savor the positive longer than we ruminate over the negative? And then pervasive, everything is localized. I may not be a really good golfer, but I could be a really good speaker. I may not be a really good computer scientist, but I could be a really good football player. And so it's not pervasive to all aspects of our life. And then on the personal piece, that is specifically an explanatory style, because you do want to hold accountability for your actions when you show up in the world. But it's not your fault when bad things happen, meaning it's not a negative critique of your being. Not that you're not held accountable for it, but it's not a negative critique of your entire being that negative thing happened. And so if we can start to adapt a more optimistic explanatory style, it'll help in building that resilience and getting us into different places that we want to be mentally.
A lot of that is sometimes people are perfectionists, right?
Yeah.
That's why when that one bad thing happened and I needed to be perfect, I'm like, oh, ain't nothing ever gonna be good.
Right.
And you bless the people at TedX, to talk about how you move from perfectionism and performance to purpose. And my favorite word that is, as I enter my mid-30s in a couple of years, peace. That peace, I love it. Need more of it. What is a practical reset that someone who considers themselves a high achiever can use when they notice that they're trying to chase validation instead of purpose and meaning?
That's a great question. That's such a great question. I'm going to say, when you say reset, the first thing that came to my mind was mindfulness. And so I would love to practice a little mindfulness with y'all right now. Can we do that?
Of course.
Okay, so what I want to do is, I'm gonna go through it quickly. I'm gonna explain it. I'm gonna go through just one round of it. But it's called a loving kindness meditation, and it's about cultivating a sense of connection, kindness, compassion, empathy, and just fostering that goodwill for humanity. And so, if you could just exhale all the air out of your lungs, place your feet flat on the ground, and sit in a comfortable seat. You can close your eyes if you want to. You can keep them open. But we're going to go through a series of affirmations for yourself And then I'm gonna do another person as well. And then this will extend to the entire world when you do a extended one. But for the sake of time, I'm only gonna do self and one other person. But I want you to repeat to yourself with love, with compassion. And y'all on the pod, y'all can say it out loud. But may I be at ease in my body.
May I be at ease in my body.
May I be attentive and gentle toward my own discomfort and suffering. May I be attentive and grateful for my own joy and well-being.
May I be attentive and grateful.
May I move toward others freely with openness. May I receive others with sympathy and understanding. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be at peace. Then I want you to bring to mind somebody that you don't particularly care for. Maybe it's somebody that you know. Maybe it's a celebrity or a politician or someone. Maybe it's the person that cut you off. And I want you to repeat these phrases with love and compassion. May they be at ease in their body. May they be attentive and gentle toward their own discomfort and suffering. May they be attentive and grateful for their own joy and well-being. May they move toward others freely and openly. May they receive others with sympathy and understanding. May they be happy. May they be well. May they be safe. May they be at peace. I want you to take a deep inhale as you lock that in for yourself, giving yourself the grace to make mistakes, to not be a perfectionist, to deviate from the norms that society has told you, and then exhale that out into the world. I would say give yourself grace is a long-winded answer to that. You don't have to be perfect. Nothing is. Nothing in nature is perfect. You are. Just as you are, just as you should be. You're perfect, imperfectly perfect.
And that wasn't a long-winded answer, brother. That was you embody the M in the muscle framework and modeling for us, right? Because it's one thing to say, hey, you should do this. And it's another thing, again, to show just how in tune you are with your work and your expertise. Of, I could just tell you what to do, or we could just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Right? Education, we say that makes it more sticky.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Right? So on top of the work that you're doing, helping folks be more vulnerable and more in tune with themselves, you also are solving something that causes a lot of stress. That's money. That is money. So you founded RoseCrete Wealth Management years ago. Where did financial awareness and mental wellness intersect most in your clients? And what's one money habit? I'm looking for my pen. What's one money habit that people can immediately use to lower the stress?
Yes. So the impetus around starting the company, and really the studying and the schooling that I did even before starting the company, came from thinking that money would solve all the issues. Because, there were problems growing up, and I associated all of them with poverty. If I wasn't poor, then I wouldn't have these issues in my life. Getting to that place, Tesh, you mentioned it, like Forbes and all these accolades and all this stuff and the business and the money and the house there were still problems. And so recognizing that wasn't the case has been the shift toward well-being from a holistic standpoint. But money is extremely important. It's extremely important in our overall well-being. And so I started the company, RoseCrete Wealth Management, initially to work with professional athletes because I saw how a lot of them have similar stories as I have and have an opportunity to change the course of their lives and the lives of their family and leave a lasting legacy. And yet the statistics show that that gets squandered way too often. And I will argue today that there's an ecosystem created for that to happen. It is working against a system that is set up for them to fail. But I will say when it comes to working with my clients, what I started to realize because I work with more than athletes now, and athletes are a smaller portion of my book of business, but is I see the intersection between their emotional and mental well-being and how they deal with their money or how they think about their money. Because we all have a relationship with money. Whether you know it or not, you have a relationship with money. It could be a positive one, it could be a not so great one. And that will impact your decisions, that will impact your risk appetite, that will impact the way that you self-sabotage situations. And so when I work with clients, it's about understanding them and their relationship with money. And a lot of that because we don't get taught money in school. We don't get taught finance and accounting and taxes, and unless you are like specifically studying those things, but we don't get taught that from a basic level. And so we do get it taught at home. And if we grew up in a home where there was poverty, then what we learn are from people who only know poverty. We don't learn what wealth looks like. And wealth is a big term that encapsulates a lot, but from a financial standpoint. And so I had gotten into spaces where I learned this and I wanted to give this back to people. And then I saw the emotional piece to it all. And it's like, hey, you grew up in an environment where the resources were scarce, and that is still impacting you today. And what it makes you do is put all of your money in a bank account that's earning 0.1% interest. And that is losing money when we incorporate inflation on top of that. So you're losing money because of your scarce mindset of everything needs to be in the bank. Let's open it up and let's dig into that to understand why it's that way. And then let's incrementally, because this is a vulnerable process for many, many, many people, even people with a lot of money. Money is vulnerable. And how do we get an appetite for a little bit more risk that then gives us a little bit more return, and then start to get to the places where we can really open up the bag and get creative with the investments that we're in. But I would say a habit for people is going back to what we were talking about with the sports, is doing the mundane things consistently. My sister's 23 years old right now. And I'm like, at your age, if you just put $50 a month away and invest it, not just put it away, but invest it in something that is generating, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, then you're going to really appreciate that later on in life. And we, the earliest time to invest is yesterday. Like let's get there.
Yes.
And it may be $5 for you today. It may be $5,000. I don't know what it is for you, but I would say automate the investments and treat that as a non-negotiable in your life, as an investment in yourself. It goes back to loving yourself. Because if I love myself, then I love my future self, and my future self is going to need resources because my future self is not going to work himself to the bone. I'm not going to work to death like my grandparents. Neither one of my grandparents died lived past retirement age. They died working, or they died poor, or they died, and it's just like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I love myself too much to put myself in that position. And though it's a sacrifice today to put that $5 up, to put that $5,000 up, to put whatever it is up on a regular basis, it is an investment in my future self. So I can't get into specifics about what to invest in and things like that, because that would go against my ethical standards. But I can tell you that the consistency of it is what will pay off in the long run.
So important. So important. Because like we talked about it can bring so much stress, but the future self, the relief it will bring to your future self is what you have to be thinking about now. So those what may feel like big sacrifices right now, they will pay off in the end. Because like you said, the last thing that you want to do, if you don't like the things that you seen growing up, or even the things that you're seeing right now in the lives of others around you, no matter how much you love them, if that's not the life that you want to live, then you have to do something different. And
Right.
if what you're doing right now is not something different, then you have to change. You've got to create the change, or you will just be another person that's in that cycle.
Yeah. And it's
And it'll be
hard.
left,
Yeah.
it'll be left for the next person to,
Yep. Yep.
when it was supposed to end with you.
Facts. If you listen to this, like, it ends with you, right? There's no coincidence in this world. Like, you're listening to this for a reason. Now it's up to you to make a decision. These are the points. When I said I didn't think I did anything extraordinary, I listened to this podcast and I made that choice to do what that person said. That, I remember being in a conference. I was in my first year of working, and this guy got on stage and he had this affirmation card. He had a picture on one side of like a big house, and then on the back side, he wrote all his affirmations down. Everything I touch prospers and turns to gold. I am attracting joy into my life. These are mine. But he, in a room full of about 500 people, who was like, only about 2 of y'all are going to do this. I'll give you the game. People will give you the game all day long, but it's up to you to implement it. Like, you can go on YouTube and go to 2 videos that'll change your life, but it's about you implementing what you learn. That is the difference maker. So if you're listening to it, you got that drive, you got that motivation, just put it in action.
Bingo. Because we can hear it, we can consume it, but if we never take the action, we never implement, nothing will change.
Thanks.
I love it. Talking about implementation, think of a team, Reggie, that implemented your strategies, your ideas, and things actually changed for them. What did it look like that next week? What did they do differently? And what measurable result followed that?
I'm gonna go back to my doors. So shout out to Coach Lee. Coach Lee is an awesome leader. He did things with his staff that was unprecedented, with the hires that he made and the positions that he gave people. He did things in recruiting that was unparalleled. And he took a team that, we weren't even considered in any conversation when it came to winning, to, beating out the number 1 team in the country last year. Right. And Coach Lee and the team, they brought me in to talk about the journey, to talk about vulnerability, and to open up that side of our humanity. In a room full of, over 100 big, strong men, bigger than me, because I'm not, I was never that big. And so a whole bunch of big, manly men. And, but then to see how they implemented the check-ins with their players, how they value the entire player, and not just the player, but the entire person underneath that helmet, underneath those pads, and implement that. It resulted in an environment and a culture on the team where everybody is bought in. Everybody is bought into that leadership. Everybody's bought into their role within that organization. And again, they beat the number 1 team in the country, and beat them good. Alabama didn't lead at all in that game last year, at all. And so, and you with doing that, you attract more and more of that talent, to where the pipeline becomes incredible. And so you can do that from a sports standpoint, from a business standpoint. The people that are working with you, working for you, working alongside you, are going to be the best people in recruiting. If I go and talk to somebody who has a role or who plays on that team, and they're like, man, how is it? It sucks here, I probably don't want to be there. But if the people say, man, I feel like this is home. If you get that, I feel like this is home. And I don't say family often, because sometimes people have negative connotations with family. But if this feels like home, then, oh man, it changes everything. And so Vanderbilt feels like home to me. They welcome me to be able to deliver what I deliver. And you continue to see that home growing for so many other people.
That's so important. Everything you said has been.
They've been cooking, boy, cooking.
And I'm gonna say from a corporate standpoint too, because you just made me think of something. But there was a tech company, and I don't know if I'm allowed to use their name, but they're a large tech company. They touch every. This blew my mind. They touch every country in the world. Their services do, and so huge tech company that I worked with, and they value their employees to invest in their well-being, and so they have well-being weeks where they do different series and things. And so I worked with them, and it wasn't, and it was virtual because again, these people are all over the world. It wasn't in the talk because it was Zoom, and get some chats, and mostly it's emojis and things like that. But after that call was the LinkedIn request, and I'm seeing the titles of these people who are reaching out and sharing these stories with me. And you have the VPs, and you have the chief whatever officers, and you have these people who have large titles but are carrying things that they've never shared with anybody. And I spent just a little time with them, with a workshop, with a story, with a keynote, and then they're exposing that to me because they felt safe. And just the release of that for them allows them to engage more, and allows them to open up and to be more productive in their work. And we need our leaders that are working with them day in and day out to be that safe person so that they can turn to them, so that they don't feel the need to hide half of themselves, if not more, when they come up and show up to work every single day. And again, this is from the newest, youngest employee, the newest, youngest player to the most veteran. And we need that. We need that safety from our leaders to model that and to be that person that they can turn to, or to create the culture of that everyone can turn to really make the big impact.
Yeah. I think that's like, at some point, every company, every corporation has to pay attention to this and implement something within their culture that takes care of their people.
Absolutely.
In other countries, that's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do when it comes to PTO and breaks and sabbaticals and things like that. That is the norm. You have to use your time off. You have to go away for months. There is no work. There's no choice. But here, a lot of times in the States, that's not the case. We rather extend opportunities for overtime. You don't have to take any time off. You overwork yourself. Now you burnt out, and now you're hating your life, and you're hating the job. And like you were talking about, you're quitting instead of adjusting because you don't have that peace. So I search for perfect peace, right? And so I think more companies, more organizations need to implement those things because it matters. It matters.
It definitely does.
Like I was telling C either yesterday or the day before, I said, we're taking a sabbatical in December.
Good.
Not do you want to? We are.
Yes.
End of November, all of December. We love y'all. On this podcast, we love y'all, but we've got to take care of ourselves and our families and get that rest and thing as well. And we'll be back, right? But that matters. And so what, other companies, other businesses, other organizations have to implement things like that. Set yourself up so that you can have rest.
Absolutely. And what's wild is, like you said, you mentioned other cultures and other countries, they recognize this. And we have this idea that the harder you work, the more successful you are. And so it breeds that. It breeds, I'm going to work my overtime, I'm going to do this. But there's only so much capacity for that. And honestly, when we look, like I've been around so many different people in all the different spectrums of society. The hardest working people are not the most successful. Yeah. Can we be real about that?
Facts.
Can we be real about that? There are people who are working extremely hard, and yet they are successful in financial sense. Let's call it that. And so that's not the case. And so when we recognize that and then realize that success is That's another thing I've redefined as success is much more than financial success or status. It
Yes.
incorporates my entire well-being, from my mental, my social, my spiritual, my energetic, all of that. It incorporates all of that. And if those things aren't harmonized in a way that feels good for me, then I'm not living successfully. I could have all the money in the world, but if all my relationships are shit, then that's not success. And so like that, it has to be in harmony and balance. You can look at balance a bunch of different ways, but it's not
Yeah.
50-50. You're going to give more priority to certain things, and that is up to you to determine what is important to you. But if they're not in alignment with what you want them to be or need them to be for your well-being, it's not success. And so we have to redefine that and what that looks like in people's lives, for sure.
Yeah. Gotta have wealth in all aspects of life, not
Yeah.
just financially. Relationship wealth, internal wealth, like mental wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Reggie, what's one message that you want to leave to the athlete, to the leader, to the entrepreneur that's facing a tough situation mentally right now?
I like to put things in poems. And so I put the message in a poem this time. And it's called Today is the Day. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. So today is the day. Today is the day to change your ways. You've been saying tomorrow is the day for far too many days. How many moons must go by before you begin to see that your actions of today will result in the person you want to be? Insanity, they say, is doing the same thing but expecting something different. But no, not you. You want to be magnificent. A word in Latin that means great deeds, but somehow you keep getting bogged down in the weeds. Today is the day to change your ways, to commit to the process, even on the days it doesn't pay, even on the days that it rains, even on the days full of pain, even on the days you feel sick. You don't deviate from the standard, because that's the whole meaning behind the words, I commit. It's time to lock in, because you deserve your best. Others can't cheat you of success, because only you were given that test. Ace it for all the broken hearts and aces. Ace it for all the deep scars and smiling faces. Ace it because you, my friend, are destined for greatness. You've got everything you need to accomplish the goal. The only thing holding you back is the person you're afraid to get to know. So look yourself in the mirror and be real with your reflection. You hate rejection, denial, criticism, and objection. You love the praise and the pleasure you get from external validation. You love standing ovations from your words of inspiration. You fear uncertainty, but know that in every situation, when you gave it your all, you exceeded your wildest expectations. So step aside, old self. Stop getting in the way. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so today is the day. That's what I tell him. Y'all got it.
You got it, bro. You got the juice.
That's why he gets those drop mic awards.
Man, you got the juice, man. We trying to get like you, brother.
Hey, we need you as you are. Too many of me's and the world be born.
Ooh, look, see, see what I mean? See right there. Hey, brother.
Y'all right? Hey, y'all would spit something dope together. See,
for real.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm open to it.
Y'all be writing some stuff now.
Hey, I'm with it, man. Like
we'll tap in.
This has been an episode, brother. You've left us with so much. Feeling some type of way about having to let you go, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. So to ease my feelings and theirs, what's next for you, and where can our listeners plug in with you? If they want to support.
I would say you can tap in with me, ReggieD4.com. Reggie D Ford across all platforms. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And what's next? So, like I mentioned, I'm studying positive psychology right now at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm really looking forward to incorporating that aspect into the work that I'm doing. Continuing to speak, continuing to coach. If you want to talk about what coaching looks like, whether it be from a organizational standpoint or from an individual standpoint, reach out on my website, and we can do that. And then if there's anything that I can do, I respond to all the messages that come my way, all the inbound messages that come my way. It may take a while, but I'm the one that's responding to them. And so, yeah, on any of those platforms, if you leave a message, eventually I'll get back to you. And I'm open. I'm an open book, so you can ask me anything, but also you can just drop a note, whatever's on your heart.
And if they wanted, the cop the book or get you to come in and speak, that's all on your website?
All on the website. So the book, there's a whole webpage dedicated to that. It's available wherever, books are sold. So my distributors get it anywhere. If you want to buy it from a bookstore, if you want to support a local bookstore, you may have to ask them to get it, but they can get it. My distributors can get it to them. It just depends on the size of the bookstore and where it's at, but they can get it to them. But Amazon, all those different things as well, if you want convenience. And so, yes. And then Vulnerability Muscle, new episode every Monday morning. We got some fire on there. There's some stories, and it'll help to humanize you, help you feel seen, help you feel that you're not alone in whatever struggles you're going through. There have been stories from all walks of life, from NFL players to mothers who've lost their children to, people who went to prison when they were 16 for murder, who are out spreading light and love in this world. And so it's some very powerful conversations. And so you can tap in there as well.
So thank you, brother. Give Reggie a round of applause, man, for dropping gems on us. Thank you for coming through the mental locker room. We appreciate you. Hopefully, as we continue planning, man. I can't speak for Tesh, but I would love to have you back, man.
Hey.
I'd love to have you back, brother.
Accept it. I'm looking forward to it. You just let me know when.
Bet. So before we wrap, Tesh, last week you told me you had two of them things. How many spots do we have left this week?
One of them. One of them. So yes, if you're a former athlete, current athlete, or coach who's tired of underachieving and know you're made for more, I want to help you take the mindset, the discipline, the skills that you developed in sports and turn them into a six-figure career or business. So if you're ready to unlock that success on another level, go ahead and book a free strategy session with me or my team to learn more about my Locker Room to Legacy coaching program. And you can do that at CompetitiveEdgeLeadershipAcademy.com. Again, that's CompetitiveEdgeLeadershipAcademy.com. And for any athletic directors, coaches, or sports professionals that are looking to fire up that team for this season, I am now booking speaking engagements to close out 2025. All right. So if you want to book me to come in and speak and get you guys fired up, you can visit my website at teshjohnson.com. All right. Again, that's teshjohnson.com.
And all the links will be in the description for Reggie's websites and his social media, for Tesh's. And again, as I do at the end, we do a little plug as well. If you enjoy reading still and you have not become a zombie to the algorithm, I write everything from actual leadership pieces, some academic egghead things, to creative writing pieces on my Substack, claygo.hips@substack.com. My latest piece was, I want to write something dope. And now the one I'm working on now that you'll see in about another week or so, it's called It's Complicated, based on my 20th read of Malcolm X's autobiography. As this read left me with the It's Complicated. So hopefully if you want to read that and work through what's complicated with me, I would love that. And if you do nothing else this week, y'all, you know what the deal is. Be good people. We'll see y'all next week.
AC, God told me to start this podcast, and then he told me to call you. The time is now. You ready?
I got you, T. Let's do it.